Good morning, everyone who is joining now. I'm really excited about today, but more so, I think I'm someone who loves to learn. So this is an opportunity for not just only you guys to learn, but also for myself. So we'll begin shortly. We're just waiting for our first speaker to just join us, and then we can start with those that are here. And then for those who may not be able to catch us right now, I'm sure what we'll be able to do is we'll be able to post it on all our other platforms, and then people can always ask and reference back some of the things and just, just figure out what they can take from the lecture. So just very quickly, I just want to see if everyone can hear me. Can you just like do a wave? I don't know how, I think you wave on Zoom, yeah? Just do a wave so that I know if I can be heard clearly by everybody. So as we're waiting for them to actually join us, again, I just wanted to say welcome to everybody. I'm really excited about this, more so than anything else, because I think it's a journey that we're starting. I'm very big on learning. So for me, it's not just this one thing that we're going to do to celebrate 1 year of Red Market Sunday. So for those of you who don't know about Red Market Sunday basically started exactly a year ago. And what we're basically trying to do with Red Market Sunday was to just facilitate for businesses, especially young entrepreneurs and startup businesses, to be able to have a platform where they could market their products and services without necessarily having to break the bank. But my team went a step further and said, you know what, how about if we offer something for them for free? Because my platform, not only is it got a lot of people, but also gets a lot of traction and a lot of engagement. So we thought, you know what, why not share that same platform? I get really tired of, not to say that it's a bad thing, but I think that you can only do so many nice pictures and nice videos and post them. I think there comes a time when you have to do more than just be an influencer in quotes who just shows nice pictures. I think there's so much more that we can teach each other and learn from each other. Social media, in as much as it's almost become toxic, it can also be a great way to share ideas and to build our businesses, our personal branding, and so many other things. So this is the reason why I thought Red Market Sunday was so important. And it needs to grow from strength to strength. And I think the growth trajectory also includes us finding ways of adding value to the people that participate in Red Market Sunday. So Red Market Sunday is basically a Sunday market, which we have on that I host on my Twitter page. What I basically do is I give you instructions whereby you have to follow certain hashtag and certain group of instructions whereby you will be putting your advert, and then from those set of instructions, which include you putting your hashtag, which is hashtag Red Market Sunday, that's when we can now retweet and give your product or your service to my audience. Just a disclaimer, I've never said that I definitely don't try the product, so I don't know. It's usually done in good faith, and everything is tried according to a person's preference, and terms and conditions apply in that I'm not responsible for the products or services that you're sold or that you buy. But apart from that, I am responsible for giving entrepreneurs and young business people a platform where they can advertise their products and services for absolutely free. So this is us celebrating a year of Red Market Sunday through this lecture. So the lecture for today is the branding lecture. So I've realized that it's not a topic that we can exhaust in one day, because I have so many questions around branding, because I myself have been a digital brand, and I've grown in that capacity because I followed a certain set of rules. But even at that, I think that there's a broader conversation, not just around branding, but also digital branding, which is a very new thing to us. And we have to understand the implications of what we put across, how we put it across, and of course, how digital actually translates to our core business. Okay. So I was just having a chat with my team, and we're just saying, you know what, we can't exhaust it in one day. So we're going to try and do more of these until we feel like we've completely exhausted the topic of branding, specifically digital branding. So we're supposed to have two speakers today, but because of that, because of what I was saying, I think that it's important that we also split it. So I think one of the speakers has just joined us now, and hi, I think George is just joining us now. Hi, George. So basically what's going to happen is that we're going to just introduce our first speaker for today, and hopefully we can have a continuation of the lecture, and then we'll touch on the second topic. So I'll announce the date for the second topic, but today we're going to be touching on branding as a whole, but I think our first speaker is going to be talking about identity value in terms of the branding subject. So for those who may not know, our first speaker, his name is Phil Branding. Please go and follow him on all social media platforms. This guy is amazing. He has managed to build a company that has done so much, but he's based in Germany. So he does brand development, business development, and so many other things for so many people. And being someone that can work in a European country, having come from Zimbabwe, it must mean that you have something that people may be interested in. So I'm going to hand it over to Phil. Phil, if you can just introduce yourself so that people can just see exactly who you are. And then from there, we can begin with our first topic of the day.
Okay, thank you so much, MISRED. I don't know if everyone can hear me clearly, first of all.
Yes, we can.
Okay, super. So my name is Philip Mdavanu, and currently based in Germany, Weimar, where I'm studying computer science and media. But before I came here, I used to be a creative director at an advertising agency in Zimbabwe. We used to handle clients like 𝐒𝐿𝐴 Diamond, 𝐒𝐮𝐬, and other major players in the industry. So whilst I was in Zimbabwe, I decided, well, I would want to help other people who want to start small businesses. This was when people were really into startups. So ever since then, that's what I've been doing. I help people start up companies and build up structures that helps their business to grow and not to fail. Yeah, that will be, in a nutshell, who I am.
Thank you for that. So I think you've got a world of knowledge with regards to branding already, because obviously you're speaking about how you've worked in a big advertising agency in Zimbabwe. So you have an understanding, I think, of the Zimbabwean market and how we translate branding in terms of our digital space, our personal space, our company space. And so I think it's so important that you begin that conversation around identity value. And even if you can, maybe just before you even start on the topic you're meant to speak on, just as for people who may not understand branding in a nutshell, so that people understand how important it is and also what it is.
Okay, so a brand is really more of a gut feeling that people have about a product or service. I wish I could show you my screen. Probably the technical guys are sorting that out. A brand is how we feel about whether it's a person or a product. It's not a reputation as such, but it's more like a reputation. That's the closest that we can come to. Or in branding terms, it's more like a perception, right? A controlled perception. That's a brand. So it means that, for example, a person can be a brand, right? Because we all have perception about people, right? For example, we have MISRED. Zimbabwe has a perception about who she is. The majority of people, it might not be the exact thing, the reality and the perception might not match, but there's a perception out there, right, about you. And most of us use phones or computers that are made by big brands. So we have perceptions about those companies or their product. That's the brand. So the brand is really in our minds. It's the perception that we have about a product, a service, right?
So branding becomes building that perception.
Branding, exactly. It becomes the way we try to influence that perception that people have, right? So that's why you see that at certain events, people will be told, hey, do not take pictures, we'll give you pictures. Or you hear people saying, hey, do not use our logo this way, right? You are given some guidelines to use certain things that that are of a certain brand. So is the curation and the controlling of the perception that's branding. Yeah. Any questions about what is branding?
I think we can kind of open that up to everybody to just ask before you actually get into the full-on lecture. If anyone else has questions around branding before we continue, please just wave. I think we're good.
Okay.
I think we can continue. I think it was clear enough.
I
Oh, there's someone who's asking. Okay. Hi.
All right.
Okay. No, it's fine. We can continue.
All right. So, so this will be the definition, as I had mentioned, that yeah, a brand is the perception of the consumer about a service or product, right? It's a gut feeling. There are instances where you can't pinpoint it, but you know that, well, this doesn't, it's not resonating with me. I can't pinpoint what's causing me to say, no, this doesn't work, or yes, I'm into this, right? That gut feeling is your perception about a thing that it's hard to describe, but it's within us. It's like a compass that's built up in us. So that so much when I mention maybe a fizzy drink, right? Our language might have been already been tainted because we have been branded so much that if you want to talk about a fizzy drink, you say a Coke, right? You say Coke. So it becomes part of the language. Or I know for certain people in Zimbabwe, we used to say, hey, I 𝐿𝐿𝐿𝐿𝐿𝐿𝐿𝐿, right?
I was about to use the same example, but I didn't know that it was toothpaste for the longest time.
Exactly. It means that the brand had managed to rein itself within us so much that it controls even our language, right? That's the optimum. That's the goal, right? To influence how people speak, how people think, so much that when you're on the counter and you want to buy the product, that's what you're going to say without knowing intentionally. So a brand becomes part of who we are as human beings. We carry brands within ourselves, right? Refrigerator in a store, and you want to buy a drink. Probably if it's a party, Coca-Cola will be the first thing that you think of, because they have managed to ingrain themselves in you. Then the next thing would be because there are misconceptions that are out there, right? From our definition, you can clearly see that a logo then doesn't become a brand, right? It's not a brand. Or a person, right? They might have some gut feelings in us that, well, they are becoming a brand, but on their own, they are not. There are so many attributes that contribute to a brand. a culture, all those build up the brand then a product is not a brand. You can make a product and it can become just a no brand, right? There are some products that are no brands at all, that people actually even buy and rebrand and then make it into a reputable brand. Then a service, you might offer a service, but for example, this happens mainly with doctors or people in the medical industry. Excuse me. They are usually offering a service, but they can't brand it. But your perception about a particular doctor, about a particular service that they offer, then becomes their brand. And there are people, for example, I've worked with a person like Anisu, right? He's a dentist. Exactly. So he is now a brand because he has managed to stood up. He's managed to set himself aside from the rest of the doctors, right? I know a lot of dentists in Zimbabwe, but they are not brand, but
yeah, and it's
a brand,
out.
Right? So far, any other questions on what's not a brand, or what other people who are joining here who thought, well, I think this is a brand? If anyone has a question. Okay. So
Yes.
all right.
If I may ask, I have a question. My name is George.
Okay.
All this time I assumed the brand. You cannot separate a brand from the person. I'll take an example. When we look at 𝐒𝐿𝐴, the moment you say 𝐒𝐿𝐴, there's something that you feel it's associated with 𝐒𝐿𝐴. And sometimes when you then see, maybe if you hear, for example, that we've heard that maybe Strive Masiwa or Douglas Mboweni was seen maybe drinking like a fish. Can we really separate a brand from a person, or these things go hand in hand?
Okay, that's a good question. Well, people can be part of a brand, right? But it doesn't make that person the brand. You can be part of you gave an example. So, for example, on his own, Strive has now managed to, in the business world, to be a brand. There's a difference between Strive being a brand, but him as a person and what he does and everything that there is more to the person. Him as a person on his own is not a brand, but what he has done and what he has and all the characteristics, right, that are around makes him a brand. But on his own, he's not a brand. I'll give a clear example. There is this saying that, yes, every man can be a father, right? But not every man. Every man can have a child, but not every man can be a father or a dad, right? There are certain things that makes you to come out of just being a person and being a brand. There is personality, there is character, there is identity, there is culture, there is history that's now attached to a person. Otherwise, everyone would be a brand by default, right?
Can I just come in and just ask? I'll use an example of someone like George Pro A. He's become his product so much that I can't separate him. And if you were to do anything else, I think I don't know how I would feel about it. And this is just an example because he's embodied his the branding of his company so much so. So maybe what the gentleman was trying to ask is, how do you make that distinctive difference, or can you make that distinctive difference?
Well, you can, but sometimes it's difficult. Yes, I would acknowledge that, but you can make a distinction in the fact that there are certain things that you then start to associate that person with or not, and that's the perception, that's the brand within your mind. It doesn't make it true, right? So, for example, I'll give an example of you, for example, MISRED. There are certain things that people can associate with just the name MISRED, right? But it doesn't make those things true. So you as a person and the brand, would we say they are the same? Exactly. So the perception is then the what's in people's mind, and maybe your actions or the rumors might be the ones that are building their perception, but it doesn't make it true. Or that's why there's most companies that are, for example, Apple really controls the narrative of everything that they talk about. They shape it in such a way that even if a person hears about Apple to say, okay, they will defend them. They'll say, no, that's not the Apple that I know, right? So the brand then becomes, to other people, it can be a positive brand. To other people, it can be a negative brand. It's not always a positive thing. I don't know if I have managed to answer that.
There's also Rimba. I think she also had a question.
Okay. You can go ahead, Rimbo.
Hi, I hope you can hear me.
Yes, clearly.
Okay, so my question was just similar to the question that was asked recently by this gentleman. I just wanted to understand how you differentiate a logo from a brand, right? How do I differentiate Chicken Inn logo from what we know it of?
Okay.
I don't know if you are getting my question.
Yes.
So yeah, I just wanted to understand the difference between a logo, a person, a product, a service, and a brand.
Okay. So we can take like your example, the Chicken Inn or Nando's, for example, right? Those are all brands because they have managed to build up an identity. They have managed to build up a culture, a perception, which might be also be positive or negative, right? But a logo on its own, it doesn't have, it's like having a face. If you see a face, you don't know about the character, you don't know about the history, you don't know about, that's exactly what a logo is. It's more of the thing that we use to identify things with. So the logo is used to visually represent or to identify as an identifier of different logos or different companies, different products, but on its own, right? A logo doesn't, it's not a brand. Like here on the screen, I have my logo here, right? It's just a logo, but maybe the value that I'm bringing in and the value that I'm adding will then shapes up the perception that you might have about field branding in the future. So much that maybe when my name pops up in a conversation, you'll say, oh, I know that person, or I know the brand, or I know it's an identifier. We use it as an identifier. And it's the same as in our culture. People don't know this, but in our culture, in the Shona culture, because we might be of different cultures here. In the Shona culture, or the African culture, we have totems, for example, right? Just having a totem doesn't make it doesn't make you have certain characteristics, but there are people who embodies the spirit that comes with the totem, so much that there are certain totem groups that, you know, if a person
Like
has got this totem,
or an amofu, it's such a thing, you know. Yeah.
Exactly.
So
Right.
Phil, very quickly before we continue, we're gonna have to just go quickly past it because we're running out of time. So I want to catch as many topics as possible before we actually have to round up.
Okay. All right. I'm sure this is now clear. So brands are more like personalities. They invoke feelings within us, right? That's why then when we are marketing or when we are shopping, we use our feelings to shop, right? And you can see, I've given here some examples. Like, for example, we have been talking about Coca-Cola. Their messaging is all about excitement. They want to invoke excitement within us, right? So much that when we think of Coca-Cola, we think of festive events and all, right? So that's the personality that they are trying to invoke within us. And you have Amazon, you have, they use sincerity, and you have Jeep or Timberland that use ruggedness, and you have Volvo. If you think of a Volvo car, you think of competence because they measure their sell on things like safety, right? Then Apple, if you think of Apple, Rolex, Gucci, and all those luxury brands, they are more about being sophisticated, right? So if you see someone wearing a Rolex watch or having an iPhone, there is a certain perception that you have or a feeling that you have because they have that product. So that's the brand personality that they have managed to build around their brand. And I'm sure with our local companies, there are certain feelings that people have. If I say 𝐒𝐿𝐴, right, because of their services or their products, people have a gut feeling about that. Yeah, some positive, some negative.
If I can just touch on 𝐒𝐿𝐴, no matter how much the tariffs change, no matter what happens, because people have learned to be so reliant on it, people don't just change. They will complain and they'll say everything they want about 𝐒𝐿𝐴, but because they've built their brand perception in such a way, people look at it as a brand that, in as much as you may feel like, you know, the pricing for you may not be okay, but they've managed to build a solid enough brand that people will always continuously go back. No matter how much they complain, they still go back, right?
Exactly. And it could also be part of the brand, right? It could be an attribute to a brand, whereby, for example, you have brands that are controversial, right? I know, for example, Nando's, all their ads, they're about social commentary in a more provocative way, right? They would like to provoke you to think or to talk about things. So that's part of their branding. But with 𝐒𝐿𝐴, maybe the masses and have got different gut feelings about it, depending on their interaction with the brand.
So, having gone through these, the definition as well as, because I'm writing notes as well as we're going. So what I'm going to ask is, like I said in the beginning, I feel like branding is such a large topic and we can't exhaust everything in one session. So we're going to do another one. I think we actually need to do a series that we touch on the different elements to brand identity, because even in an hour, I don't think we can properly exhaust it. So I'm going to
That's
ask
true.
you in front of everyone so that we have another class, because I know you spoke about invoking feelings within us and understanding how, as young entrepreneurs or as young business people, how we can actually learn to evoke feelings within people from these brands, or how to build that brand perception 101. Because a lot of people may not know, okay, fine, I am a new business owner. What do I need to do in order for me to build a brand, or to say that now I have a brand? And I think that's the question on a lot of people's minds. And so I'm going to ask you very nicely, Phil, because you are the expert in this area, to maybe just do a one-on-one for people, a branding lecture 101, so that we know how we are learning to evoke feelings within our different clienteles. That's one, because I think you've really explained brand identity as well, what it actually is, and that's what you were meant to be talking about, what it means to have a brand and what a brand actually is. So now, because you're a branding expert, I think we can actually tap into the how to build and design a brand that is sellable, because everyone wants to be able to sell their brand, right?
Yes.
So I'm sorry for putting you on the spot, but that's
I totally understand. Well, maybe just to give you an introduction to that, so that you can have at least a good perception of what we will be learning. It will be more about having a brand strategy, right? Because a brand strategy is like a therapy session whereby you actually, as people, we go to therapy to really understand ourselves and to know more about who we are, so that we can be more effective and we can see ourselves in a better way. So that's the same thing with brand strategy to companies. You then sit down to say, okay, who are we really? If we are saying, for example, we are Zimbo shop, right? What do we do? Who are we trying to reach? Who are our target clients? What do we believe in? How does that affect what we say, how we talk? Because those are all the things that build up a brand. And what sort of visual images do we want to publish so that people can see and use that to relate with our brand? So those are all parts of the things that we will talk about when we talk about brand strategy. And that's how you actually build a brand. You need to have a brand strategy in place.
Okay, so thank you for that, Phil. So I think we've touched on brand identity very well. So like I said, I don't think we'll have enough time to exhaust the entire topic, but thank you so much, Phil, for giving us your time. So now we need to just set a date for our next lecture. We've decided to have a series of lectures just to help each other grow, because even for myself, I'm also a young business person. I'm not just MISRED, but I run a business outside of it. So I would need to know the basic fundamentals of what needs to be done. And I think when people see this, they'll understand what we're trying to teach, and growing from there. I think Red Market Sunday can also grow and build other brands as we go. But thank you so much, Phil, for giving us your time. And because we have to round up, I think we'll set another date for the second part of the lecture, which was going to be touching on the future of digital branding. But I think it's very important for us to actually understand what branding is and how we can build brands before we even talk of the future of branding. So please stay tuned in. We're going to be doing this more and more often. Please do follow Phil on his social media handles. Just look up Phil Mudavanu on all social media platforms. He's available, but I think he's available as Phil Branding. Phil Branding. So we will continue with this conversation. Please tell everybody this is not the end of it, but it's just the beginning of a beautiful journey of us learning. And I hope that as we grow our brands, as we grow Red Market Sunday, each and every one of us who actually participates in Red Market Sunday can actually grow. But again, thank you so much, Phil. I think your input is so invaluable, and you know, I can never thank you enough. But yeah, we hope that we can learn more from you and get more of your time.
Sure, you're welcome, and thank you. Many thanks to everyone who joined in, and I'll probably post this on my website. So it's philbranding.com. So yeah, so that people can download it as well.
All right. So remember that, philbranding.com. We're also going to be posting this on all our social media platforms. For others who may not have been able to join, as you know, there's a very small amount of people that can be on Zoom, but it's fine. Thank you to everybody, and see you on our next lecture.
Okay. Bye. Thank you.